So today I'm absolutely delighted to be starting this new bass podcast with a big bang, as we have the one and only Jonny Dibble here to chat all about bass. How are you doing today, Jonny?
Oh my God. Dude, thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, I'm doing really good, thank you. Had a bit of a podcast filled day today, so plenty of bass on the brain, as it always is, but yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no probs. That sounds great. So I've been following your channel for a long time now. I'm a big fan of your videos and all the work you do in terms of bringing stuff to the bass community. I think you're one of those positive voices and a source of inspiration in the online bass world. And in fact, I was even inspired to start my own channel from watching some of your early content. I think it was a video you were talking about two using two preamps like a Sans amp and a dark glass together, and I was watching it going, this guy's just in his bedroom just talking about all this cool bass stuff that he loves, and I was like, I think I might just try doing that. So I started just putting some videos on, and before you knew it, I was just addicted to kind of going through the process. So firstly, I just want to thank you for kind of being that source of inspiration for me.
Oh, dude, that's wild to hear because I had the exact same thing, and that's how I got started, really. But it was with Patrick Hunter. It was me.
Okay.
I was like, oh, Patrick, he's the best. And then was like, oh, I kind of want to do that, and just kind of went
Yeah,
from there.
that's great. So I've listened to you ask many guests many questions on your fantastic In the Pocket Bass podcast. So now it's your turn to get in that hot seat and answer some questions.
Yeah. God, I got a really hot bum. Sorry, this seat is so hot.
So firstly, before we get started, I just thought it'd be good for you to give like a brief backstory of how you ended up doing what you do in the bass world, just for anyone who's, been living under a rock and not seen you on the YouTube and all that. If just a brief backstory would be great.
Yeah, of course. So my kind of journey began with the channel specifically, because it, I really wanted to buy a bass. I really wanted that Harley Benton Rickenbacker bass, and there were no demos of it on YouTube. And I was like, I don't really have an excuse to buy this. And lockdowns just started, and I was like, shall I just make a video on it? No one else has done it. I'm sure it'll be good. Because I'd kind of done videography bits before, and so I bought it. I did a video on it and just kind of muddled my way through it. Just hit record and was like, go. I just kind of just started, and then it did pretty well. And I was like, oh, okay. There's an appetite for this, and I actually really enjoyed that whole process. So let's go again, and let's go again. Oh, let's go again. Just kept going from there, and haven't really stopped since. So yeah, it's been a wild ride getting to where we are now, which is great. Having the best time. But before that, it was just playing in originals bands. I'd never done covers, tributes, like any of that growing up until late, post lockdown stuff. Was all originals bands and going on tour in my old rock bands and things like that. And so my kind of playing came from being in school and being in a band rather than being a musician beforehand. I kind of joined this band and it kind of started from there. But yeah, I've kind of gone backwards in that story and how I've told that. But yeah, the whole thing started because I didn't have an excuse to buy a bass and I really wanted it.
Now that sounds great. I mean, I bet you can't imagine it sort of from when you started. Did you ever imagine it taking off like it did and like getting to where you've got to? Because I mean, I think you just short 30,000 on YouTube subscribers now. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm annoyed about the whole thing, to be honest. Day one, I knew it was going to be a hit, and I thought I'd be much further on by now. No. Honestly, I had no idea what would happen or if I'd even enjoy it, and if anyone would watch it. And so to be where we are now, and now I look at it and I'm like, oh, well, I'm small fry compared to these giants, on YouTube. So I'm constantly playing that comparison game in my head to other people. So when you say things like that, I'm like, no, I don't have a big channel. I still don't think that. So sometimes I need to check myself, and realized that, it's doing all right. It's
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
all right.
definitely an achievement. And like I say, like I think there's so many people out there that get a lot of benefit from the videos that you do, especially in that sort of, beginner to sort of lower end of the spectrum. People just looking to buy the first bass or wanting some advice. I mean, I was the same with my channel. I only started putting videos out there that I wanted to see myself. I was like, no one's done a video on this, or I'd have some gear and I'd be like, wonder what that sounds like compared to that. And no one really compared like DIs and that I had that I wanted to hear. And for me, I was making them for myself because I'd listen back and I'd go, oh, that sounds slightly this or that. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
just to have that video there, and I go, well, if I wanted it, maybe somebody else wanted it. And
Absolutely. And that's where I kind of wriggled into a bit of a niche within a niche within a within a niche, because I wanted to focus on affordable gear. And I was finding that for the affordable gear, there would be quite a lot of videos, but not many like good videos, like high quality, or be like someone playing in their bedroom, an amp, just room sound, not like actually being recorded. And I'd be like, it's kind of not help it, like doesn't really help. So I was like, okay, like maybe I can try and fit into that niche, and that's what I wanted to showcase originally, that you can get amazing sounds and fantastic basses for not a lot of money. And I've always believed that and always think that. So yeah, that's where the kind of inspiration for it all came from as well, is wanting to prove that point.
yeah, that sounds great. So I reckon we were moving to the first section, which is about bass guitars specifically. So it's kind of, I'm calling it first, last, best, worst. So I'll take each question in turn. First question, this one's sort of got two parts to it. So it's, what was your first bass guitar and do you still have it?
I sadly don't have my first bass guitar. I thought about tracking it down, trying and doing a video, but I don't know how hard that would be. I know the person who I gave it to, but so my first bass was a precision bass copy, not an actual one. It was like a starter kit one, like I reckon my parents paid £80 for it new, if that, I reckon. And the brand, brace yourself, Cheetah. Cheetah. Never ever heard of it since. Never seen it anywhere since. Like, not even like in your local music shop where it was be like vintage and like all these ones. No, Cheetah. And I've not even looked it up since, actually, as to whether they still make them. But yeah, it made noise. Let's just say that it sound came out of it. It was like a dark wood. Obviously, it wasn't rosewood. I wouldn't have thought. Probably MDF, stained MDF fretboard. Like a dark wood board, P-bass body with a white pick guard, and like almost like a blue burst finish. Horrible it was. But I loved it at the time because it made noise, and I could turn up to band practice and plug it into my 30-watt practice amp and blow the speakers on that, trying to keep up with the drummer. So it was great for at the time. But yeah, that was my first bass. I wish I still had it, but I got another bass. So I needed to sell that one because I was like 14, I think I was. And so I swapped it for an iPod Nano, which I don't have anymore, obviously. But yeah, still rocking the iPod Nano, me. Really.
What's funny about that first bass being called a Cheetah? My first bass was called The Animal.
The Animal? No way.
Have you ever seen these? They were made in Korea.
No.
I'm a bit older than you, so they might have passed you by. But when I was younger, you couldn't get like sort of that many imported basses, and you couldn't really get that many good cheap copies and stuff. But I bought it second hand out of Loot, the newspaper, because this is how long it was, like 1995. Going back. So I was like 10. I had 50 quid for me. Like Christmas present or whatever, and you turn up like to buy it, and the advert just says electric bass black, and that's all you get, and you just it's one of them. But it's funny because I've not got mine anymore, and mine was called The Animal, so bit of a relation there with your Cheetah.
I just typed in The Animal bass, and I don't know what I was expecting. It's all fish. It's wolfish.
I've tracked a picture down, but I've not managed to find one for sale. So there is some forums where people have put some pictures on of them, but I believe they were made in Korea. It was also a P-based copy,
Yeah.
and I remember the tone controls were all scratchy and it always was cutting out. And I actually learned how to solder just so I could fix it. My dad had a soldering iron, but it was always falling apart. But it's good to remember. I wish I still had it, you know. That's where it all started.
Yeah.
But moving on. So what was the last bass that you bought?
The last one I bought, well, is a good one, actually. It is this. My
nice
1978 Gibson G3.
I hadn't realised you bought that. I seen it on your channel. I thought you'd loaned it. So you actually bought it. Nice.
Yeah. This has been a dream bass of mine. My custom bass is based off of this. But God, it stinks, it does. It smells like an old lady. And she's an old girl. But yeah, it's I've always wanted a G3. Love old Gibson basses. I'm not like, I say that and I feel like I should therefore know loads about old Gibson basses. I don't. I just really like them. But G3s in particular, there's a particular tone, and I'm a huge Paramore fan. And Jeremy Davis, the last bass he used in the band, he had 2 G3s, and that's when I was like, oh wow, those are so cool and sound incredible. And so that's kind of where my love of these came from. I know like Mike Dirnt is famous for playing one as well. And yeah, this one came up. Vintage Bass Room were like, I know you like these, and it's just come up. And this is the finish that I really like as well. He's like, do you want to give it a go? And I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. So he sent it to me to check out, and I was like, oh, damn you, yeah, I need to get it. So it's an investment, but yeah. This was the latest one. I've had another one through the doors since then, which I unboxed the other day, the Quartz Headless, but that's the last one I purchased.
Yeah. Great. That looks amazing. I really like the look of that. I've seen some copies online, that Decibel company who are doing some custom ones. Some of those designs are absolutely ridiculous. Like, I've been so tempted to message him and ask how much. But,
I shared one on my story today, like the sparkly one and like the 5-string one he did, the first ever 5-string version. Just amazing. And I've never played one because I'm based in America, but I know Jordan Ray Landers has got his custom kind of G3 copy in the jazz bass body is made by them, and I've got my hands on that, and it's really nice and sounds amazing. So that's great.
So what's the best bass you've ever played?
That is hard. So I think it's all contextual, with where you are at in the moment, where you are physically as well. Because like because I've played basses where I've been like, oh, this is amazing, and I've played another one at home and been like, actually, it's not that good, So it's tricky to nail it down to one specifically. I'm going to talk about the one that I've been thinking about a lot recently, as like the one that really blew me away, and that is a bass from LEH Guitars. So LEH are based in America somewhere. You might have seen them online. They do the basses with they've got sliders on them to activate the preamp. Like a bass boosting, just bass and treble boosters on sliders, like on a soundboard, and it was immaculate, this thing. I played it at NAMM, and it had 2 51 or 54 style P bass pickups in like jazz bass configuration, and with a 2-band boost only preamp in a medium scale. This thing was unreal. So at the minute, I'm going to say that because, that thing was just so good.
That sounds great. I'm going to have to check them out.
Yeah, about £5,000 worth of good, but very, very good. So at the minute, that's the one that's kind of like top of the list, and a recent one that's been messing with me. But yeah, very, very cool.
So in contrast to that, what's the worst bass you've ever played?
This blue burst cheetah, I think. No, no. The worst one. I mean, I played some absolute dogs in school. You know, like when
Yeah.
there was only like one bass that was good from school, and the rest were terrible. There was an old brand called Ashton, not Ashdown, Ashton, and
Mhm.
I think they were. I want to say they're Australian or something, but they made like mostly acoustics, and they had basses as well. Oh my gosh, these things were awful, so bad. Just never stayed in tune. Intonation was always terrible. I mean, I'm sure no one had ever given them a setup in the school and whatnot, but
Yeah.
yeah, just always nearly put me off playing, you know. I was just like, I can't deal with this. It's so bad. I'm sure it's not me. It must be this. But yeah, that's near at the top of the list. In terms of the worst ones in recent times, uh, it's tough because I generally don't think there's many bad basses that are made now just
Yeah, I
because of
agree.
how good affordable stuff is and has been for years, you know? So it's tricky, it's hard to get a bad bass unless you've got a lemon, something that doesn't work out the box. I had the Squire Contemporary series basses, and I thought they were really rubbish because I got one and it was broken, like it just fizzled out, like the battery was dying in it. These were active PH bases, I think it was from Squire, so a humbucker in the bridge, and yeah, I thought, oh, well, maybe that was just a one-off. I get it. Got the second one in, same thing, but I got it in a different color, so it must be a different batch. So that's not a good sign. And then I get a third one in and it was damaged. And I was like, what's going on here? So, like, that one was pretty bad. I mean, it was once I swapped out the electronics and kind of got it in a better shape, it was okay. But yeah, pretty poor overall. The other one I can think of is the Epiphone Newport bass. Didn't like that. Didn't like that bass at all. Just no tone in it really jumped out at me, and I was like,
Yeah.
Is this usable?" I mean, I'm sure it's just me because it doesn't really suit my playing style, I suppose. But yeah, that one did not impress me at all. So that's probably the recent one.
Yeah. Okay, great. Um, I think we'll move on then to talk about sort of bass playing. So it's sort of next section. Um, I was just wondering, so what bands or artists are you currently playing with? Are you just in? So you've got Foo Fakers and Nirvana Not, which is kind of a dual tribute band. Is that the only band you're playing in at the moment, or are you doing
That's
anything
it.
else?
That's it. Yeah, that's what I'm playing in at the moment, and we're not super busy. It's only like a side thing for everyone, you know. It's not like anyone's full-time job or anything that anyone wants to turn into that. It is very much a bit of fun on the side, you know. And so we probably do between 15 and 20 shows a year, and some, you know, festivals mixed into that as well. So not super busy. It gets busier in the summer and things like that. But yeah, our first gig of the year was like 2 weeks ago. So,
Okay.
you know, we take a bit of time off between Christmas and the kind of winter. Basically, we hibernate for the winter, and come back stronger than ever. But yeah, you know, the tribute stuff I always poo-pooed in the past, being like, sellouts, fake musicians, you know how can you enjoy that? But it's crazy, man. People turn up, they pay to see you, they sing the words back, and they have a great time. And not once on stage have I been like, oh my God, like I feel like an idiot. No, I've always just absolutely loved it. And it just comes down to the fact I love performing and playing. And yeah, it's just, I have the best time. And I get to go a little wild on stage. So let out some energy. So yeah, it's great. No
Yeah.
originals projects going at the minute, but yeah, we'll see.
Do you miss playing original music?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's. So I say that it's still fun, you know, doing the tribute stuff, but there is definitely something missing from the satisfaction of playing your own music live. I haven't played originals music live for oh, it might be like 9, 10 years, I reckon,
Okay.
which is great. Now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh my goodness, that is wild. I nearly started a band last year, but I just don't have the time. at the minute,
Yeah.
which sucks, but maybe one day, and I would like to. I'm always writing, never like songs, but fully, but always writing riffs and playing around and got melodies in my head. And, I play so much in this room that and record so much that there's always something going on. But yeah, I do miss that live experience from that a little bit. So maybe next year, maybe we'll do something. See.
You try and get that creative side into your YouTube content in a way, like sort of original stuff, like, for demoing things, you try and put across your own riffs in that type of thing.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I think, like you say, when you start doing covers, I've been in the same situation myself before. I've quite a sort of creative person. I feel like I need that sort of creative side, and I find that I wasn't having that doing the covers. It was great. I was getting paid, and it was fun because there's people turning up to the gigs, but then I still needed that kind of not playing in an original band as such, but just doing something creatively, musically, from my own sort of benefit type thing.
It's a different itch that gets scratched almost, isn't it? When you're playing your own stuff or writing your own stuff, it's kind of gives you that therapy that performing other people's music just doesn't do. Although you're being creative, it's not quite the same.
Yeah. So you're predominantly a pick player. I was wondering, is that so which pick do you use and why? So I kind of went for years changing what I use and I couldn't decide, and I've made videos showing 10 different picks and I'm like, which one? And I've settled on one now, but I was wondering what you use.
Yeah, so I actually use quite a thin pick. Loads of bass players that play picks that I know go for super thick picks, but I don't really go for that. It doesn't suit me. So the main ones I landed on, and I never remember the numbers, so I'm going to read them, are 0.6 mil Dunlops. The orange ones are pretty bendy. Mostly
Tortex.
Yes, the Tortex ones. I only ever use these, to be honest, just because it's all I've ever known. Occasionally I'll get one with like a dark glass pedal and they're kind of like similar thickness, so I'll be like, oh, I'll use that. But mainly if I'm going out and buying picks, it's always the Tortex ones. I've never had any issues. That or the 0.73s I went to for a while, which is the next one up in thickness. So I quite like these. These are good as well. I'm happy with either of these really. So yeah, nothing special, which is kind of that's me. And yeah, just love them.
Yeah, whatever works, whatever you're comfortable with. Everyone's got their own sort of preference, haven't they?
Yeah, and I find the pick does a bit of, because it's got that bendiness in it a little bit. I find it helps me with that. I'm not, it's giving me less resistance. Oh, microphone. Giving me less resistance. So it's kind of helping me get to the next pick a bit sooner, if you like, or giving it that extra attack. Which I find, just works with my style.
Yeah, cool. So the last one in this sort of bass playing section, if you could pass on only one piece of advice to bass players, what would it be?
Oh, that's a tough one. Don't do it. No. My advice would be to just don't compare yourself. Don't come and try and be something you're not, almost, because I could be sat here forever comparing myself to Joe Dart, comparing myself to like Ian Martin Allison, and even from a content creation point of view, but also a bass playing point of view, I could sit here forever going, oh, I'm not as good as them, or like, oh, I wish I was this, and it just doesn't. It might inspire you to improve yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that, but when it gets to a point when you're putting yourself down, it's just never a good frame of mind to be in, especially when there's so many barriers to being creative sometimes. Even if it's like having to set something up, and like, I just want the music to start straight away and to be in the zone, and if you've already got this mental block about that comparison game, I would say just put that aside. Don't think about comparing yourself to guitarists as well. And even, thinking about what you should be doing, even if you're just playing root notes, that's fine. Like, that's absolutely fine and valid as well. You are seen, you are valid. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's great advice. I agree with that definitely. I think people can get too sort of caught up with the, especially because like of all the content that's kind of in your face everywhere you go now, and the comparison games just everywhere, isn't it? I mean, when we were growing up and we were in school, there'd be like, you compare yourself to sort of like local bands or people in the local area in school, things like that. Now it's like the most amazing musician in the world is there on the fingertips of your phone, and then
Yeah.
you're scrolling, and then there's like some 4 year old doing some crazy bass sonata or something, and then you kind of just, if you start getting swept up in that, you can feel very sort of deflated very quickly. So it is true that you need to just kind of stay in creative with what you're doing, enjoy what you're doing, and then you'll sort of prosper.
Yeah, 100%. And what you said about it being at your fingertips is so true. And you're just constantly going to be like putting yourself down over it, unless you're super confident in yourself, which is great. But I also don't think that that's another reason why I kind of proud in a way, or pleased that I'm not like some insane, incredible player, because it doesn't work for demoing gear. Like, there are some people who demo gear out there who are amazing, and boy, do they let you know. Like, oh my god, that cheetah bass sounds amazing. That animal bass sounds incredible because
Yeah.
someone's just absolutely slapped the living daylights out of it,
Yeah.
and then you get it and you're like, why don't I sound like that? So it's just a risky thing, and sometimes it's better to play it simple.
Yeah, and another thing I've found with sort of, I've gone through various sort of ways of demoing stuff. Like, do I do the DI signal? Do I do it through an amp? Do I do it through an amp sim?
Mm.
Do I do it through effects? Do I do all the pickup configurations with tone in all the positions? And then I kind of come to realize that most of the time people are putting the volume and tone on full. And most of the time, with the jazz bass, maybe not all the time, but they're putting it both pickups on full. And then I started cutting out all of these. I was just filming all these extra sounds that no one was really, maybe 5 to 10% of people were doing. But I was like, well, I never use that sound. Most people probably don't. I'm spending more time creating the videos. So I just started going, you know what? Bass is a supporting instrument and it needs to be heard in context. So you can listen to this bass sound on its own, and you might think it's the greatest sound in the world, but then you might go and play with your band and it doesn't work. So what I've started to try and do now is just put drum track in there, put a guitar track in or something, just to let you hear the bass as you would hear it. You're always pretty much hearing bass compressed. On an album, it's been compressed. You play live, it's usually compressed. You don't really hear these squeaky clean bass sounds on your own unless you're a solo bassist. You hear bass on its own, but I don't play solo bass. In a band context, you are in a mix. So that's really what matters. And I know people like to hear it, and I'm one as well who would like to hear it soloed. So I sometimes just go, there's the bass on its own, but then here's it in context. And I think that makes quite a big difference as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that is the best way of doing it, to be honest. I used to do a lot of, like, at the end of every video would have a little song that I'd written with the bass in context. And I definitely want to get back to doing that, because I agree with that. I stopped doing it for years now, but I do want to get back to that, because it's such a good point that, like, I used to, if I had a 3-band preamp on a bass, I'd be doing every single combination of the preamp, and here it is with the bass cut and the treble boosted. I'm like, who needs that?
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, I'm gonna just, like, come on this journey with me, and we're gonna tweak it until we get the sound that I think sounds best. And yeah, so it's
That's a way of doing it as well. Just kind of dialing in what you think sounds best on like a pedal or a bass, and just going like, this is what I've found sounds best, and then running with maybe a sample with it dialed in like that. But it does take more time doing the demo stuff, and I'm a pretty terrible guitar player as well, so I'm not always happy with some of
you and me both.
the stuff I do on that. But it still gives you a bit of a flavour for what it sounds like. But I think we can move on then to the next section. So originally, this was going to be a quick fire round similar to like what you do on your podcast, but then I thought these questions are too hard to answer in a quick fire fashion. So I have pre-shared these, so hopefully you've had a little bit of a think about them. And I'm going to be kind to you and say you don't have to say your absolute favourite for each question, because I think this is quite hard to nail one down, but just one of your favourites, and then, you know, explain maybe a bit about why. So this sort of section's called 10 of my favourite things. And the first one is your favourite travel destination.
So I live in the southwest of the UK, in Somerset, where the home of cider and farms, and so I'm a bit of a country boy, you know. So I do enjoy frequenting to the nearest city, which is Bristol. So I always enjoy going there. I think it's an amazing city, has heaps to do, always stuff going on, great food, great nightlife. You know, like it's a great place. And so I'd say in terms of frequent destinations, it's got to be Bristol, man. It's great, and it's probably somewhere that I frequent the most in terms of a destination. We're probably about, you know, an hour away from it, but it's still achievable to get there. So I would say that in terms of stuff in the UK,
Yeah,
it's got to be that.
that sounds great. So moving on, favourite bass strings.
Oh, it's got to be. Hang on. Oh, they're hidden away in a drawer. It's got to be the. I'm a Dunlop artist, and my favourite strings of choice are the hybrid nickel strings that they do. Standard 105 to 45 gauge. I sometimes have a 110. They don't do that in the hybrids, but they're kind of standard strings that they do. But the hybrids are great. They are not quite as like, because you get nickel strings and stainless steel strings. They're the kind of two alleys that I was mostly playing in, and I play rounds most of the time, as you know.
Yeah.
And the hybrids are kind of stainless steel wrapped nickel strings. So they got a little bit more zing, but they don't die as quickly, I find. So they're like the perfect combination of the two. So for me, it's got to be those. I really, really like them. And they're in red packaging.
Okay.
Yeah, they're great.
Just you sometimes go to the 110 for sort of the drop D stuff. Does that help with dropping the tune? Ah, cool.
These ones. Yeah, so sorry, it's the other way around. It's nickel over stainless steel.
I was going to say, because isn't steel like a bit rough on your fingers? I got when I got my Sandberg bass, it came with steel strings on it, and I was like, these are really rough, and like I feel like my fingerprints have gone, you know, from just playing on it for like 5 minutes. So I put nickels on. I just used Diodarios, but I was going to say, like, do they feel a bit rough because it's steel on the outside? But you said it's nickel, so yeah,
it's the other way around. Yeah. So no, don't get any of those issues with those strings. But the stainless steels I've had before, because I used to get the Pro Steels from Diodario. I never had an issue with those. But yeah, these have been fantastic, and Dunlop have been very, very kind. So for this, I'm mainly tuning in either standard or half a step down.
Okay.
And then I'll go down to C sharp as well sometimes, because with the Nirvana stuff we play in like E flat standard, and then tune down to drop D, but is actually C sharp, so it's just a semitone below. And I find that the 105s cope with that okay. I do have the 110s for going to that C sharp normally. That's what I've got on the Alpha at the minute, which is like the main gigging bass for that set. So normally I'll go to the 110 for the Nirvana basses, but normally it's just the 105s.
Yeah, cool. Favorite bass line?
So this one I'm going to quote, because I covered this in a video, and I always harken back to it because it's like one of the first ones that I learned and was like, oh yeah, great, cool. And it's one of the first times I noticed a bass line and was like, oh my God, this is great. And I just can't wait to be king from The Lion King.
Nice.
Absolutely killer bass line on that thing. And I was like, oh yeah, this slaps. So that I always say that. I do also love Runaway by Jamiroquai. I think that's incredible. And yeah, other ones. Oh, my favorite Christmas song is "Step Into Christmas" by Elton John. Have
Oh
you ever
yeah,
heard the
the
bass line on
bass
that?
on that. Yeah, it doesn't stop, does it? It's
It,
constantly moving. Yeah,
it's never the same. And only when I was like tuned in, and then listened to that song was I like, oh my, this guy's a machine.
yeah,
I've
totally.
not learned it to date, but yeah, I might do that for Christmas this year because that is an absolute beast. So I'm going to say that I'm going to submit those three.
Yeah. Okay. While we're on baseline, I'm gonna just throw this in. So, what's your favorite Nirvana baseline to play live? Because I'm a big Nirvana fan. Was growing up. Nevermind's first album. I think I bought on CD when I was 10. Played in bands for years, playing Nirvana covers. What would you say the best baseline is for you when you play that live?
For me, it's got to be between two. I think overall it's got to be In Bloom.
Yeah, oh, it's
just
amazing.
just because like the opening riff is brilliant anyway, and the bass is doing something like a little bit more not really technical, but a bit more technical than like the guitars are kind of doing. They're kind of like washing over the top a little bit, and then just that when it kicks into that
Groove in the
verse,
verse. Yeah,
like that's it's that and Smells Like Teen Spirit where the bass really shines in the verse, and
yeah,
when people are then going, if I can get the people doing this like a neck movement in the crowd, like I've done a good job, and
yeah.
then that's what I look for, and that's what I really enjoy, and it's those like breakout moments that just sounds so good, so simple but masterfully executed, so.
Yeah, dead melodic, aren't they? So I've always loved his bass playing. It's just like dead effective for
Yeah.
like, the style of music. It's great.
Totally. We play Lounge Act as well
Oh, that's quite
occasionally.
hard to play. I always found I could never
Yeah,
play that when I was younger. It was quite like quick, but it's good bass line.
yeah, that's really fun. But like you said, like I mess that up all the time. But that's good fun. That and then do like On a Plane. That's pretty fun. Lithium is great. Great bass line on that. In like the bridge section, where it does twice in that song, where it's kind of got like a bit of a bass run. It does
Yeah,
itself.
like little bass fills, like
Yeah,
pentatonic type. Yeah, it's great.
yeah, and I just kind of I do an estimation of what's being done. We're a tribute band, but we're not like dressing up all the time, like super. We're not super to the book, because it's not like um, we're dressing the outfits. We've got all the same guitar. Like we do a roughly.
Hmm.
We don't take it mega seriously in that realm, and so if there's little extra bits we do or whatever, or things we want to do in the moment, then that we say fair game. That's fine. It doesn't have to be
Yeah, yeah.
exact because I'm sure that they probably didn't do it exact.
Yeah,
So
when they played live, there's going to be bits where you just kind of improv a little bit and stuff.
yeah,
Part of
so
the sort of fun of playing live, isn't it?
yeah, that's it, and that song in particular in that section, you can do some great little bits. So that's fun.
Yeah, that's good. I like that song. Yeah, great bass line. Um, so next one, favorite food.
I'm a bit of a basic man when it comes to this, I'm afraid, and I have to say pizza. It just is. It just
Good
is the
choice.
best. It
Yeah.
just is. We're planning a wedding at the moment, and
Oh, nice.
it was like,
Congrats.
thanks. It was like, so what evening food do you want to do? I was like, if I'm honest, kind of just want to do pizzas because it's everyone likes it, and it's just a classic for a reason. So yeah, I gotta say that I wish it was more adventurous. I'd say in terms of cuisine, my favorite cuisine is like is Japanese. Love Japanese food and like sushi and things like that. I absolutely love it. But one food in particular, it's got to be pizza.
Great. Good choice. Favorite bass player.
Uh, so for the longest time, I said because I come from a never came from a musical family. Never came from like knowing players growing up. My inspiration then came from the bands that I was listening to, who were all like rock and modern metal or heavier bands. So never really, it's been a backwards journey for me. You know, I started with the stuff that's coming out now and then looked back a little bit. So I always say that I never really had any influences in terms of a player. Like some people would be like, yeah, Marcus Miller and like, you know, all these cats that I was just like, they never, like, in my formative years, I was never listening to that kind of stuff, which is a, you know, barbaric thing to say. How dare you, Jonny? So for me, my favorite players growing up, I loved like Mark Hoppus and Mike Dunn, of course. I said I was a huge Paramore fan. Jeremy Davis was my favorite for a long time. He's gone a bit off the rails now. It's a bit strange, a strange guy. So not really him. In terms of who I really appreciate at the minute and who I think just like brings a really great example of what bass playing can do, it's got to be Joe Dart right now. Like, I think he is not only the coolest bass player, but like he really has a voice with the bass. His tone is unique to him. His playing is totally unique to him, but it's not too. Obviously it's showy, but it's like in Wolfpack, like specifically, you know, you watch that Madison Square Garden gig of them playing that sold out show there, and Deantown starts, of course, and the whole audience is singing that bass line. And I met him at NAMM and was like, what does that feel like? Like when people are singing that along and whilst you're playing, and he was like, I could do it every day. It's like the best feeling in the world. Never gets old. And I was like,
Yeah.
amazing. Because I was just there watching that video. I was there with him in that moment. Like, I can't remember who it was, but they were saying that their favorite guitar solos are when, like, you can sing the solo. It's not like crazy. It is melodic, and I feel like Joe Dart does that in his playing, and evidented at that gig when everyone's just singing this bass line, you know. And what other baseline have you ever heard that happening to, you know? So I just think that's so iconic, and it's just great. It's really functional, and he can dial it back when he needs to, and does, because there's so many amazing musicians in the projects he's involved with, and then brings it forward when he does. And so yeah, I think for that reason, I think he's just amazing.
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, I'm a big Wolfpack fan, sorry, and I think all the best players can just sort of play when they need to and hold back when they need to. I think obviously the style of music that it is, the style of funk, it's got busy bass playing in it. It is kind of the thing. There's times when I hear certain sort of Chili Peppers songs, and Flea's just completely holding back, locked into the groove. He's playing like three notes, and I'm like, that's a proper bass player. He can play when he wants. He can do what he wants, but then he knows when all it needs is just them two on the kick. I just need to lock in with that.
Yeah.
And like a perfect example of, like, he talks to some of the points you just raised. It's like on Blood Sugar Sex Magic, but Could Have Lied. On that, it's literally just the drums are like bass, snare, and he just locks in with that the whole song. He probably plays like 2 or 3 notes outside of that underneath the solo. And talking about the sort of feel in the solo, the best guitar solos, it's just it's not complicated to play, but the feel and the bends and the emotion that comes out in his guitar solo, these are just signs of all the best players, aren't they? You know, you kind of hear 2 notes, you know who they are. And it's more a feeling rather than a technical ability. It's the fact that you can feel their expression on the instrument, and it's kind of a bit of an underrated thing, I think. And you know, players that have that, you just kind of go, well, that's the goal, to get that good that people know who you are in a couple of notes, and you know the feeling what you're doing. It's they're definitely sort of well said for a player like that. And I think that's definitely a good sort of reference to listen to some Joe Dart and hear some of the stuff he's got going on, if you've not already.
100%. Got to do it. And a lot of, I think, great bass lines come from what you're not playing as much as what you are playing. Like, it's the gaps in that playing that really define it sometimes, I feel like. If it's not notes all the time, it's and if you put that mindset on it, you're like, oh, okay, that makes a bit more sense now, and it means that I can make a whole audience do this, do that head movement, or to engage with it by just going bump, ba da ba da dum,
Yeah,
ba da
yeah.
da. It's not like it could be super busy, but that locking in, like you say, is just where it's all about it. And I think that's where bass is really interesting to me.
It's really hard to do as well, though, because I
Oh
find
yeah,
that sometimes, say you're writing an original bass line, you've got like the music, and you start trying to come up with something. It's really hard to not play in every moment. You kind of sometimes you come up with something, and you know less is more, but you kind of go, I feel like I'm not doing enough, and it's to be able to just do enough but make it feel good, make it lock in with the drums, bring out the melody and things. But it's so difficult to do, and I know a lot of people think it's a quite a simple instrument, bass, but when you think of how much you really have to know about the harmonic information and rhythm and to make stuff feel good, it's actually quite difficult. The part in the end might be something that's really easy to play, and you could probably teach a beginner within a few weeks, but it's the point that it's the function it serves and it's sticking to that role and not going and playing out just because you can. And I think it's quite difficult to kind of hold yourself back
yeah,
sometimes. Do you ever find that?
yeah. And I've definitely listened back to old recordings and been like, I was definitely overplaying there, or like compensating, or trying to show off when you really don't need to. And everyone says it's a supportive instrument, and that it needs to sit in with the drums and lock in. And I think that's, like I say, when it's the most effective. And the thing you always have to remember is that people are not moving their feet and dancing to the guitars. They're doing that to the bass,
Mm.
because that's what's locking it all together. It's the glue in the band that brings the drums and the guitars all together. So if you think about it that way, your role feels all of a sudden a lot more important, because without you, it might not work, because
Yeah,
that
yeah.
blend between rhythm and melody is not there all of a sudden. So it's just so important, and when you put it that way, it sounds a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so favorite bass effect.
Oh, it's got to be drive, without a doubt. Like no matter how much I then enjoy clean tones, soon as there's like nothing makes me like screw my face up in absolute agony and joy when that filthy bass distortion comes on. Like, oh my goodness, in like certain sections. I don't like it when it's like mega modern. It's quite, I think there's so much range of drive, fuzz, distortion, overdrive, like there's so much that you can go down, and so many, and I'll always be tone chasing with drive because I just find it so interesting and fun. And tastes can change over time. Whereas I hear a chorus pedal and I go, yep, that's a chorus pedal. I'll hear a delay pedal. Right, I'm gonna make myself sound like an idiot on the internet. Delay pedals, I don't get it. I don't get the differences sometimes. I know where you can get like reverse delays and like slapbacks, and I understand that. But I used to have a plugin that was just like delay, and and you just controlled the time. And I was just like, fine, that's it. That's all I need. Like I
Yeah.
could, I could have a 30 quid delay pedal. Done. You know? That's it. Where for bass, whereas like drive, there's like you can really hear the quality of it. I feel like anyway, that's a really stupid thing to say. All of that, and I know there's a lot more that goes into every other effect, but for me, sonically, it's the most interesting for bass, I find. And in
Yeah.
the genre of music that I'm playing, it's just the most usable thing. I never grew up with an octave pedal or playing with that. I'm only now really appreciating how good it is, because I just never really played that music when I was growing up. And the bands I was listening to, it was all, the bass was either clean or a bit driven. So I always lent into drive for pedals.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, I think as well, when you get that sort of perfect drive sound that you're chasing, I find that the parts almost write themselves. Like sometimes when I'm doing demos, it's only once I've dialed in a certain sound, or say I've made a preset for the stomp or something, and then I've got to come up with an original riff to record to show it off or whatever. it just comes out straight away because it's like, and I'm like, I wouldn't have written that if my bass was clean.
Yeah.
There's no way that part was coming out because it gives you this gives you a feeling and you kind of just run with it and you start just coming up with these ideas and then it's like, and I find that sometimes just dialing in a sound is the thing you need to inspire yourself to write something.
100%. And that's where, as well as feeling on a bass, the sound of a bass can really impact your playing. Just like you get a P bass and that sound just makes you want to play a certain way. And then putting drive on that is just, it's totally different and it just inspires you to go for something that you might not have naturally done if it didn't have that effect on it. It's totally true.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so music, favorite album?
For me, I've mentioned it a few times, big Paramore fan. My favorite album of all time has got to be, God of Brand New Eyes. That's it. I forgot. Mine went blank then. Brand New Eyes by Paramore. It's not the most like highly rated album by theirs, but it's the best. It's such a good era of that band and just so mature for the time. Some just excellent songwriting and the drumming on it is fantastic. It's never like, it's not always balls to the wall like rock stuff. There's loads of different sounds in there that just sound incredible. So yeah, it's got to be that for me, which is a bit of a some people think it's a lame answer, but just love it.
I'm going to take an action to listen to that because they're a band that sort of passed me by. I'm sort of a bit of a older generation and I think they kind of just wasn't kind of there to kind of hear them come out and get into it and stuff, but I'll definitely give it a listen because I've heard a lot of people mention them and I think it's just a band that's passed me by, so
yeah, and
at least I'll take that recommendation.
And that was kind of before, I mean, they've always had good bass lines as well within there. Really underrated player and underrated drummer as well. Well, all of them really, apart from Hayley Williams. Hayley Williams is obviously very rated, I would say, for rightfully so. But the band themselves are fantastic musicians and are just excellent songwriters. Like the drums, there are some fills in there that don't sound like mega complex, but just fit the songs so well. And the production is fantastic on all those albums. So yeah, definitely recommend it. In some of the later stuff, there's some really, really nice bass stuff, which I'm sure you've heard, like Ain't It Fun and things like that, like the slap bass stuff on that. And that was with the Gibson G3
Nice.
and things like that, and This Is Why, amazing bass intro, of course. But yeah, later on there's some more like bass focus stuff. But yeah, that album, which was after kind of they exploded with Riot, with like Misery Business, like that, after that album is my favorite era when they kind of matured a little bit. So yeah, check it out.
Yeah, excellent, will do. Favorite film?
Oh, again, kind of good, but not good. I am a huge Star Wars nerd. So for me, I've got Jabba the Hutt over there out of reach as well. And for me, I don't know why, it always just stuck with me was Return of the Jedi, not Empire Strikes Back. I always just loved, I felt like there was more emotion in Return of the Jedi. I know everyone hates the Ewoks. I know. The first Star Wars film I watched was Revenge of the Sith in 2005.
Really?
I was in year 5 in school. Like, and so it exploded, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, Star Wars! Wow!" And so then I watched it kind of in reverse order. I watched that in the cinema. Had not seen anything else, I was just like, oh my God, this is incredible. So I have big nostalgia for the prequels, like I'm not a sympathizer in the fact that like, I know they're not great, like having rewatched them many, many times, but that nostalgia is so thick there for me that I'll always enjoy it, from a not so serious point of view. And so then then it was like, right, okay, going to go back now and watch the rest. So started late onto that, but just loved it ever since. And yeah, Return of the Jedi was always the one that stuck out to me back then. And it's always the one I can probably quote the most and just enjoy the most as well. So yeah, that's got to be it.
Yeah, it's a classic. I think it was episode one that was coming out when I was sort of first getting into Star Wars, and I went back and watched all the original three, and then I kind of followed all the episodes from there. I've not seen most of the new sort of series that have come out, but I did really like The Mandalorian. That was like the best thing I've seen since the films. Really like that series. But yeah, classic Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that's why on the podcast we always ask what Star Wars character would be the best at base if we know that they're a bit of a Star Wars head. Then we always give them that one. And it always comes up with a good answer. A big nostalgia for that. So I'm not a hater.
Yeah, yeah, good. So favorite pickup configuration?
So I have gone through every phase there is, just like in jazzes, just like in stingrays, just like in peas. For me, where I've settled on it now, and it used to be that a PJ was my favorite because you kind of got everything you could want. But honestly, it goes back to a P. Just a single
Really?
P. Yeah.
If
Honestly,
you could just have one, it'd just be P.
yeah, yeah. It's just the one that like fits, literally just fits everything. And I love a jazz bass as well. But like, there's something when you slap on a P, there's something so wrong about that, but so right.
Yeah,
Like
sounds good.
it sounds so good, and that mid is a reason why the design hasn't changed so much. And I love things changing and things like that. Love it, but my God, that the P bass just sounds so good. And it's always the one that I come back to, and I'm like, oh, I just really want a P bass now, or does I really want like a solid, good P bass, or like that tone? It's always like the perfect P bass tone is always what I'm kind of chasing at times. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's got to be that, if I'm honest. If I
yeah,
look at myself in the mirror and go, yeah, I think it is just a P bass, to be honest.
yeah. I love the simplicity as well of just like kind of having that volume and tone. I'm the kind of person who just wants, few controls as possible because I find that the more controls I have, the more I mess up the sound, and I just kind of want to turn things on full. And I like dialing the sound every now and then, but like in all honesty, a pedal with 40 controls on, kind of just I spend more time like messing around with them and not playing my bass. I just want to play my bass, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
100%. And like, I went through a phase of having like at one point I had like two preamps on my board, and I was like, what am I doing? And an active bass. I was like, what am I doing here? Like, what is
yeah,
actually this tone that we're getting? It's just like muddied up with frequencies like stacked on each other here. So yeah, sometimes simple is best, and I just love a passive P. I think it just sounds great, and it has loads of character itself, and shines through.
absolutely. So final favorite. So number 10, favorite bass brand.
Why'd you do this to me, Shak? Uh, um, for me, my favorite brand, honestly, this changes all the time. I'm very fortunate in that I'm able to get a lot of stuff in the doors and out again. This one is pretty shocking, I would say, because the quality isn't always outstanding on this one. And but in terms of stuff that I enjoy because it's affordable and the brand I get excited about the most is Squire. I think Squire's fantastic. Always, apart from the contemporaries, I've had really good experiences with them, and I've never had any problems, and just always been pretty pleased with the classic vibe range and like the 40th anniversary stuff. I would say those ones. Below, I've had some issues with before, but that kind of £300-400 price range, I've just been really, really solid, fantastic. There are other brands that I absolutely love as well, and I struggle to call them my favorite because sometimes they don't excite me as much. Like Squire are more exciting to me than Fender because
Mhm.
I feel like Fender are just going to do the same thing again and again. And this reissue, oh, now it's in this color. Whereas
Yeah.
Squire kind of have the liberty, and they're able to be a bit more dynamic with what they're able to sell because they're more affordable. So I feel like they take risks a lot more, and it's less likely to damage the mother brand, of Fender.
Yeah.
So if they do something weird and it flops, it's fine. Even though they're producing them at a bigger mass. That was a weird way to put it, but the mass production side of it, they're producing loads to keep the cost down. They some reason just take loads more risks, and I find them more exciting, when they bring out these weird things. So I really enjoy that. In terms of other brands, my recent love is Sandberg. I know you mentioned Sandberg earlier.
Yeah.
They're just so good. The Californias, oh my God. I had one in from them. It was a California TT, a TT4.
TT4, yeah, that's what I've got.
Yeah. Oh, so nice. Is yours the TT? Yeah, it's like the jazz style one.
Jazz bass one, yeah. It's like
Yeah.
hard. It's not what is it, medium aged or something?
Yeah.
It's got the sort of aging on it. Roquefort blue. It's like a blue
Ooh.
cheese colour. But it's I kind of got obsessed with them like for a while, and I was like, I think this is the bass for me. I kind of wanted to upgrade my jazz bass, and I like the fact that you can go on the configurator on the website and choose all your own stuff. Like I like a rosewood board, and then I was choosing all the different things, and I actually got it for a decent price a few years ago through Toman.
Oh, great. I was
Sort
going
of
to
just
say,
custom ordered it, and yeah, because they've gone up quite a lot now. But then I think I only paid must have been about 1,600.
Wow.
And it was they're a lot more now, but it just when it come, I was just like, oh my God, this is just unbelievable. And the only thing I found about it that's different to my other basses, because I primarily play like sort of like P basses and stuff like that. The fretboard radius is like 14, so it's quite flat. So it just feels a little bit weird if you've never really had one, because they're normally like about say 9.5. I know the vintage stuff's like 7 something. So that just felt a little bit weird at first. But like once I got used to that, it's just that I honestly think of all the sort of relicing jobs I've seen, Sandberg do it best. And I actually think I've not have seen a better quality instrument, like just the detail, just the hardware, everything
Yeah.
about them is just pure. It oozes quality, and I got that impression before I bought one. There was nowhere I could try one out. I was really nervous about spending, good chunk of money without trying it, but I just took a risk after doing loads of research, and it really paid off.
Yeah. That softcore aging that they do is just so good, because it's like softcore, the hardcore aging, and then like the heavy relic, isn't it, or something?
Yeah.
Or like the master something relic
Master
one.
built or something.
Yeah. And I love the subtleties of the softcore ones. It's so good, and like you say, like all the hardware's all like brushed, so it looks like it's been used for a couple of years. The zero fret is just such a amazing spec. I think if I could have every bass have a certain spec, it would be that. I love it because it just makes those open notes feel like fretted ones, and you really hear that in the sound as well, because they're not boomy compared to the rest, and it just feels so even across the fretboard. And I am a bit of a sucker for a 2-band preamp over a 3-band. Less is more sometimes, and with a jazz bass especially, it's already a bit scoopy, so it's kind of already perfect in that sense, like for that instrument. So I just like having the ability to boost the bass and treble a little bit should you need it, or like if your strings are dead a little bit, boost that treble a little bit, and yeah, it's amazing. I've had bad experiences with Sandbergs as well. Like I've had ones where I've just thought they sounded a bit dead, or I've had a bad experience with one of the Electras in the past, but like all the modern day California stuff I've tried has just been immaculate, and yeah, love it.
Okay, that's great. So I was thinking we'll move on to the sort of bass signal chains and pedals section. So what I've got is I'll share a picture of your current pedal board, which you've done a video recently, haven't you? Which is great. It goes through all of the sort of, well, your latest setup really, isn't it? That you've you tried out sort of quite a few different pedals and then went for sort of what you felt was best at the moment for your board. So I'm going to share this. Just let me know if you can see it on screen.
I can see it.
A lovely picture of Chris there on
Chris's
your
face.
tuner. I love the fact that you can change the image on that tuner. It's like the best feature. I almost bought it just for that feature.
That's why I wanted it. Honestly, that is why I wanted it. It's a great, like, you can have it horizontal, like landscape as well. Like it's amazing for many reasons, but that in particular, I was just like, this is going to make so many good memes. So yeah, that's why I went for that. I wanted my whole philosophy with this board, and what I want to do this year is to just have a small board, because I felt like I was overcompensating with the big board. Big board's great; it's an amazing board physically, like, and the patch bay that it had on it was great. But I was kind of always thinking, oh, well, how could I do this way and wire it like this? Oh, I was always just thinking about how I could do things like that, and it was kind of distracting from other things. And like, I found myself turning towards the end of using that board. I'd look down and be like, I'm only actually using 2 pedals right now. Like, why do I need all this on here? And I kind of enjoyed having multiple drives to like test out what's working in the moment, like, and be like, okay, this drive pedal is sounding good with this bass right now, so I'm going to use that. And I'm kind of trying to move away from that philosophy and just have really limited board. And so I was like, right, I'm going to use the small board that I've got for everything now, so that it forces me to not have all that like option paralysis at my fingertips, that I have to work with what I've got, and it will force me to enjoy what I've got in front of me a little bit more as well, and appreciate what I've got in front of me, rather than like, I'll swap it out for this and I'll get something else, So it's kind of a lesson I'm trying to teach myself as well at the same time. So like I said before, I'm not using any effect, like big modulation effects and reverb, delay, chorus, all this stuff as well. I'm just using drive, and I've done something a little bit different this time and got an octave pedal in there as well. So shall I take you through the signal chain on this?
Yeah. Go through the whole sort of signal chain of your board, and then we can kind of move on to where does that then go into your amp and cab for sort of your live rig if you want.
Yeah, of course.
Great.
So obviously we're going in at the tuner, then we're going out of there into the MXR bass compressor. Love this compressor. I definitely wanted like an always on compressor, because it just tightens things up and makes things sound a little bit beefier, I think, sometimes. So go with the compression. Then from there, you might think it's going into the dark glass pedal, but it's not. It's going underneath these 2 pedals and into the Jad Freya capo at the end. And that is because the cap of how the capo works. You can run it in many different ways, and it can kind of act as like the mothership of your board. I've got it set up at the minute so that if you wanted to take a clean DI out of the board, you could do. If you wanted to take an affected DI out of the board, you could do. So it's quite utilitarian, really. So if you were to take DI out at just that point at the capo, it would just be the compressor that's in the chain, because that's the only pedal that's running in front of the pedal physically. Then what the capo does is it's got 2 loops on the side. One is a preamp loop, and one is a post preamp loop. So one of them is putting whatever's in that loop before the capo pedal, and one of them is putting it after. And like I said, why not just put the pedals before the pedal if you're going to do that? Well, that's because if you don't want it to affect that clean DI out, that's what you do. And so it's a way that you can really control the order of your pedal board whilst having a clean DI. I'm saying all this, I barely ever use a clean DI, but boy, is it nice to have, in case everything goes wrong, or if I want to record multiple things from the board, which I'll talk about in a minute. So in the pre-loop of the capo, so before the preamp, we're going into the Dark Glass Camos, brand new for this year. This is essentially an Alpha Omega from Dark Glass and an octaver with 3 different octave settings, all in one pedal. You can go and check out the review of that on my channel. It's an incredible pedal. I haven't been that excited about a pedal for a long time.
Yeah, it
So
sounds fantastic. I was
oh,
a bit gutted at the guitar show. I didn't manage to have a go on it. You put it back on the dark glass stand, didn't you? But
yeah,
just missed out on it. But some of the demos I've seen, absolutely insane sounds coming out of it, and I think it's so well thought out. You can tell it's come from a bass player who knows what they want.
100%. And combine that with like Dark Glass's innovation and the way that they engineer things is just
Yeah,
so user friendly and just so well and like clean and well thought out. And so from there, we're going into the Kamos, which is on its side, as you can see, because it's the only way it'll fit, and it will go nicely next to the next pedal, but also because of just where the foot switches are, where the DI out is as well. So there's a DI out on that as well if you wanted to, but I don't. From there, the out of that goes into the in of the big booty Judy from Backburner Noise. So Jordan Raylanders, who I mentioned a little bit earlier, has this company that has this pedal. It's only that pedal at the minute. He's got another one in the works, but it just sells the BBJ at the moment, and it's essentially a rack clone. So for Nirvana stuff, is perfect, like playing Breed, things like that. Like, it sounds so good in that song. And it sounds really good with my Alpha, that pedal. So sometimes I will leave it always on if I'm using that bass. But it goes really nice with the octave sound on the Kamos as well. So if I want to, I can turn both of those on at the same time, or I can just do one of each, or I can use the Alpha Omega sound on the Kamos if I tap the top of the pedal. So I've got within this, then that goes back into the capo, and then that goes off to the amp. So like I said, that's like the mothership. I used to put preamps kind of at the start of the chain. So like tuner, preamp, compressor, or the other way around. I kind of changed, flip-flopped over the year, and then the affected signal, because I was like, I want my clean zone tone unaffected at the start and then build on it from there. And I think that's still mostly the right thing to do. Depends how you want to look at it. If you're using the capo as your front of house, you want to do it this way round because it's treating it like an amp, and the amp goes at the end. But if you're treating it as a pedal board that's then going into an amp, I don't think it matters as much. I'm kind of setting this up to do both, but I could have put the capo anywhere and not use the DI out functions of this, whatever. But essentially it means I've got 3 drives on this board and an octaver, because the capo's also got a B-side drive functionality so that you can give it like a little boost. And essentially I like doing like gain staging on my board. It's not technically gain staging, it's like stacking gain, but that's what I call it. So I've got my clean tone, which is fairly trebly, fairly cutting through the mix. Then I've got 3 different flavors of drive to play with. So ideally, I would just have the B side of the capo as that extra boost in the heavier sections. And then if I want a really like filthy tone, turn on the big booty Judy. But sometimes in certain rooms or certain basses, I find that the drive of the Kamo sounds really good instead of the B side of the capo. So in this tiny board, I've actually got loads of different sounds to play with, whilst keeping it pretty simple and not overcomplicating it. So yeah, I say that it sounds pretty complicated, but it's not. It's fairly simple and utilitarian, I like to think. So yeah, that's it so far. Not gigged this yet. This exact setup. That will be happening in a few weeks. So I'm excited.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I think it takes a while to get your head around the capo because it does so much, and I think I'm constantly looking at the manual going, have I quite got this right? And the way I kind of do it, slightly different to you. I've got my capo first. I plug directly into the capo, and then I basically do the post, put everything in the post effects loop, so I can kind of EQ straight up front, use all my pedals, use my stomp and everything, bring it back to the capo for the wet DI out, and then you've still got the totally clean, uncompressed DI out. But there's so many different ways of doing it. I mean, I could maybe do what you do, put the compressor the one side and then put all the other stuff the other side. I've just not properly messed with it. I've kind of just lazy, just putting everything in a line and kind of just keeping it like that. But there's so much you can do with it.
There's so much you can do, because I could be like, right, well, actually, I'm going to put all the drive in the post, and in the pre-loop I'm going to put the compressor, and then but it starts to get a bit too much, and too much cables going back and forth, because you need it physically to be at the end, because that's what's going to the amp, so it was kind of a necessity thing to do it that way a little bit, but I just thought with the clean DI out, I'll have it compressed, because that's going to be nice and even. Then it'll be cool.
Yeah, definitely. So what that sort of output then of the capo? So what's your sort of live rig at the moment in terms of an amp and cab?
Yeah, so it goes from there, just from a cable, into the Ashdown Rootmaster Evo 3 500. So 500 watt Class D amp. This is, I think they came out last year or the year before, the new facelift. Yeah, it was last year, the facelifted Rootmaster series, which they've done for years, but they've just improved them now because they've got built-in cab sims on the DI, so you can kind of customize that a little bit, and they're just fantastic sounding amps. I've gone up and down with Ashdown over the years. It was my first big boy amp was an Ashdown, and then I kind of moved into the kind of glacier sounds of like Gallon Kruger and Ampeg and Orange, and kind of going through that route, and then have come back round. And yeah, I'm an Ashdown artist now, which is great, and they're a fantastic company, just really well, just lovely people, and they've treated me really, really well. So yeah, I'd always like to pay it backwards, or back to them, and even if I found another head that I was like, oh yeah, this is fantastic, oh this is great, I'd probably still use my Ashdown, because I want to support that company, and they're brilliant. And I've not had that. Don't have that desire, because I love this head. I think it's brilliant. Eventually I would want the 800 watt version, I think, just for a little bit more headroom and a little bit more volume at my fingertips. But the 500 watt one is perfect for me right now, and that's then powering an old ABM Ashdown 410 cab. I like 10-inch speakers. I've only had one cab that had 12-inch, which seems to be the in thing at the moment, and that was good, but the setup I didn't really like at the time, so I feel like it gave me a bit of a false idea of 12-inch. So I would like to try that again at some point, but yeah, I'm not hugely into 15-inch speakers, only if it was combined with a 410 or with a 210 or something like that. Like, I think that's a nice combination, but if it's a single cab, it's got to be a 410 for me.
Yeah, so I had the ABM 500, the old 1-2-10 sort of combo. It sounded amazing. I just couldn't carry it. It was just I'm too weak to sort of lug that sort of thing around. Maybe move it around my bedroom like once a year, but I couldn't gig with it or anything. I ended up going for so I had these single 12-inch orange speakers, and because I had the Terra Bass, I think you used to have that, didn't you? The Terra Bass Mark II, and I quite liked the sound, but wasn't giving me what I wanted, and then I wasn't sure if 12 inches was the right thing for me, but I ended up getting this barefaced BB3.
I wanted to ask you about that.
Oh my God, it's just, I did loads of research, to be fair, and I thought, surely a 12-inch speaker, I mean, it's got the sort of high frequency control in it, surely it can't really give you all of that low end and everything I know about sort of cone sizes and the sort of the properties. I thought it kind of goes against the science in a way, but when you listen to the guy from Bareface talk and you watch the videos and you start to understand that they're doing things in a different way, and you realize how much sort of power these sort of drivers have, I was like, well, to be fair, you can pick it up in one hand, and I want a light cab, so that's ticking the box. It's 800 watt, so I've got a 900 watt Ike T900 there, so it's an 8 ohm cab, so you get about 600 watts out of it, so it's more than enough. And the sound is just like, it's hard to explain. It's not like you can't listen to it and go, oh yeah, it's a 12-inch speaker, because it doesn't work like that, because the way they're designed is so different to your typical speakers. It's actually full range. So it's flat frequency response, full range. So it goes from, 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz probably, or whatever. So, and if you want more of a natural, like a typical old school cab sound, which tailors off the high end and stuff, you just turn the high frequency control off. So it becomes like an old school cab, sound that you'd expect from a bass cab if you do that. But if you kind of running, say, stomp presets or something that's got a bit more top end, and you're not quite hearing yourself, say, like on stage or whatever, you can just dial up that high frequency control on the back, and it gives you that sort of like presence. But it's just like, I've been meaning to demo it for the channel since I got it, but haven't been able. I don't know if I can capture how good it is just over YouTube and a mic and stuff. So I'm not able to kind of do it. But yeah, if you do get a chance to check one out, I would definitely sort of have a go, because it's one of them, you have to feel it, you have to play it to know what I mean. I can try and describe it in words, but it's like it's going to be so different to any cab you've ever played.
Yeah.
You're not going to understand it until you kind of feel that.
I really, really want one. And like you said, I've never tried one. I really want to, because it just seems like everyone that's played one, obviously people that play them like them, but they just say, no, this is what you've been missing out on. Like, this is next level. And I've had, my favorite cab I've ever played was an Eden XLT cab, but that weighed more than an Ampeg 610 that I bought it to replace the Ampeg 610, because I was like, this is too heavy. And it was even heavier, this 410, but it sounded so good. So good, yeah. And so I'm getting that similar vibe from the Bareface stuff. I definitely want to check them out. Which one was it you said again?
It's the Big Baby 3, it's called.
Okay, I'm on the website now. Okay, so
yeah, there's a few different. There's like Super Twin and there's Big Baby and things like that. So this one, for me, it was like, if you look at the weight of it, it's still really light. You can pick it up in one hand. It's just like one top handle.
Yeah.
I've got like the soft sort of case for it as well. And also, like, so I used to have the Terra Bass Mark II orange amp, and the feet got stuck to the top of the cab, pulled all the black paint off it. And I was like, oh shit, I've wrecked my cab that's just cost me all this money. I got in touch with Bareface. They sent me a big pot of black paint for it. And so I've got this spare sort of barefaced like cab paint now. So if I ever scuff me my cab, the customer service is great. I mean, the guy who runs the company basically just advises you on what you think you need when you tell him what you're looking for and stuff. So it's a big sort of to and fro in emails before I chose it, and I just went for this. I went for the custom blue baffle. So that painted blue colour is like a custom colour that I got on there as well. But yeah, I can't praise it highly enough. I've not gigged it yet because I'm not gigging at the moment, but I'm looking forward to kind of really pumping the volume through it, because I mean, I've turned it up and like radiators are rattling in the house and stuff, but there's only so much I can get away with because I'm in a semi-detached house,
Yeah, I mean, I think my cab downstairs can handle, I want to say it can handle 600 watts. I think. No, it's got to be more than that. Because that's just one speaker, isn't it? The Big Baby 3.
Yeah, it's just a 12-inch speaker, and then there's the high frequency sort of tweeter in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't remember how much mine does, but because my worry with something like that, like you say, is like, is that going to be loud enough? Because I need to be able to keep up with someone actually smashing a drum kit, playing Nirvana, and Foo Fighters.
It's honestly, it's loud, like really, really loud. Like you wouldn't. It's like I say about like how they design it. They teamed up with some like specialist with these free speaker drivers or something, and that's why they can handle so much sort of volume. There's some science behind it. He really knows his stuff, the guy, and he was a bass player.
Yeah.
So I just kind of put my faith in the sort of research and development they've done for the products, and I just took a risk. Really, I wouldn't normally buy something so expensive without playing it. But I kind of felt it was what I wanted. I wanted the control of being able to kind of have all of the frequencies if I need them. I mean, it can actually operate as a PA speaker.
Yeah.
Mono, you could get two of these and use it as a PA because it's full range. you could pump your whole band through two of them. So I think kind of if you're DIing your bass into a PA rig and then not doing any EQ, well, that's kind of the sound you're getting out of this amp. Then if you want to start doing the sort of low pass stuff and cutting some of the top end and EQing, then fine, but it can do it all. And because I was kind of messing around with the stomp quite a bit and getting some sort of hi-fi type sounds or more sort of modulation stuff going on, I kind of wanted to hear the full sound that was coming out. Because say you record into your computer, you know, direct out, a lot of the time you're getting the full frequency spectrum. You're not getting the amps tailored, you know, cut off top end. You're getting everything. So when I was dialing in sounds on my studio monitors, I was like, why doesn't it sound like that on my bass rig? And sometimes I wanted it to sound like that, and sometimes I didn't. So I was changing the way I was creating presets, because you want your preset to sound like it sounds when you're recording or playing through your rig. And it's all these little things these are just things that go on in my head that I'm like, this is why I need to talk to people like you about it, because I can't bore people who don't know about bass or like bass about it.
I love this, because that's the one thing, because I love the HX Stomp. Use it for every video. I've got looking at the XL right now. Like it's amazing. But live, I get a bit like drilled in about presets. I think we had a little chat about this, didn't we, at the bass show?
Yeah.
Like I get a bit bogged down with adjusting presets in a live scenario, but also I get that feeling where I'm like, this doesn't sound like it did at home, with this one in particular. So that is a great shout. I'm definitely going to reach out to Bareface after this, I think, and be like, hey, what's the deal? Can we, like, let's work something out here. I wanna check one out, or like, what have you got in stock? Because I'm definitely interested, because my cab is great, but it's knackered. It's like it's been through it's seen some shit. You know, it's great. And you know, like I said, love Ashdown, but it's heavy, and the casters are knackered, and like I would happily get a Bareface cab. So I'm definitely gonna hit him up after this.
Yeah, definitely recommended. So talking about sort of recording then and sticking on sort of signal chains. So what's your sort of typical signal chain if you were to do some home recording now? Say you were doing something for a channel, you were demoing something, or you were doing something for a band, recording a bass part. What would you use your pedal board? What would you go into? How are you sort of recording?
I mean, if I'm recording a video at home or doing some writing, it's from the bass or guitar into the HX Stomp, so straight in, and then straight into my Focusrite interface. And that is the only thing between that and the computer. Normally, I won't normally whip the board out, because if I'm writing at home, the board I normally just keep for a live scenario. Very rarely is it out and I'm playing with it that way. Because if I quite like the drives and all the bits that are built into the HX. If I need a little something, I'll just use that. Sometimes I'll get the board out, like say, and I've actually got the VT bass Tech 21 pedal plugged in at the moment, going into the HX Stomp to give me a little bit of that ampeggy kind of sound into the HX Stomp, just to sweeten it up a little bit. And just because of practicality point of view, it means that the input is not on the back of my desk, it's like right there, so I could just plug straight into that instead. So it's a kind of a practicality point of view, but then also just at sound as well. It sounds great. But a lot of stuff at the minute that I'm really enjoying from a signal chain perspective is because I'm only just now discovering like DI sounds. Like in the past, I'd be like, absolutely not. Like everything's got to have a cab sim. Everything has got to have an amp sim. Like, no. Why would you want a DI? Now, I've seen the error of my ways. And I just think that a DI sounds fantastic. And in particular in the HX Stomp, they've got the Noble preamp in there now.
The Regal DI.
The Regal DI.
Sounds great.
It sounds so good. And so that's what I'm using a lot of the time now. I'm kind of leaning a lot of the time using that as my main sound, as opposed to the like Gallion Kruger amp setup that I've normally got set up. Just because it adds this bit of saturation that really makes something just a little bit sweeter, you know, makes it a bit more bass and treble to really just round it out and make it sound like it's hitting like it's going through an oven. You know, it's being warmed up as it gets to your ears. So that's why I just love that. And so a lot of the time I'm just using that now.
Yeah, I made a preset called Studio Bass DI using that sort of Regal DI sound, giving it a bit of a bass and treble boost, and it really sounds quite. I've not got a Noble DI, but from what I've heard, it sounds quite represents it as best it can. Obviously, you're not playing through tubes, so the response is different, but I think the sound, you're boosting the same frequencies, so it's kind of in that ballpark. So you actually go in, line out, instrument out, cable into your Focusrite.
Literally.
Yeah, because
That's all
what
I'm
I
doing.
do is I take the cable out sometimes and go into me. I've got like a mic preamp, which is a DI as well, which can accept like a cable DI on my desk. I either do that out the stomp, or because my stomp goes back into the capo, loop closes the loop before the wet DI. I use the DI out the capo into my sort of desk preamp,
It's a great shout.
and do it that way. And I think it just adds a little bit. You know, you're saying about a little bit sort of sterile DI and things like that. I think because it's digital, the HX Stomp, sometimes just going straight in, it kind of needs to go through some sort of analog circuitry, something that's got either a transformer based DI, you know, like I don't know if there is a transformer in the capo or not, but it gives it something. This one on my desk is like an old sort of 1073 sort of DI, like the old sort of desks you'd have where people went direct in. It's got transformer in it, so it kind of enriches that stomp signal, gives you that little bit of saturation, just some coloration. It makes you feel like you're not playing through digital effects,
And that's going
the final thing.
out of the line, out of the stomp into that, then DI out from that into the interface.
Yeah, yes, and it just adds something extra sometimes, because I find sometimes going just straight in can just not give me what I want. And if I can't feel it from a kind of monitoring point of view when I'm trying to play something, I'm like, I don't play the part very well because I can't get into it because I'm not feeling the sound. I've got to dial in the sound to be able to get me to do the performance right, and it just plays itself. When I can get the right sound, I'm like, oh well, it's just this, that I can play it in usually a few takes, whereas I'll be there for ages when the sound's not quite right, because you can hear every little, sometimes, you know, like when there's too much detail in your sound and you're hearing all these noises. It's probably because of my crap sort of technique, but you know, you kind of like puts you off. Sometimes you don't want all that extra information, and sometimes you do. So it kind of just helps with that. Just makes you feel a bit more confident.
Yeah, that's a great way. And I've never really messed around with proper DIs coming out and into this, because I was just saying like, oh, that'll do, you know, kind of thing. But I'm definitely you teach me so much here, Shak. You know, I'm gonna take some of your wisdom, I think, and look into that as well, because I'm definitely open to that idea, and kind of firming up that signal chain a little better, because I know it's not like the most conventional way of someone would do it for those reasons that you described, but it's just how I've always done it.
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
it's just
Sometimes simplicity and the ease, isn't it? Yeah, it's because I'm a bit of a recording nerd, so I did like sort of music technology at university. I've always been into recording from when I got into music from a young age. I had like the old sort of Fostex digital 8 tracks and things like that. I've always recorded the bands that I've been in and stuff, so I'm kind of like in the detail of like the real geeky stuff for recording, because it's just a sort of hobby I've had for years, sort of thing. So I probably go beyond what you need to, really. But
well, send me some links after this, please. Share your wisdom, because I want to be looking into that, because I can feel what you're talking about there, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I get you.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
So last one about in this section. So it's if you could create your own bass pedal, what would it be and why?
So I've actually thought about this from an actually building a pedal point of view, and been tempted to do it one day. Essentially, so on like Ampeg amps, you get the deep and the bright switch, right? And it's essentially just a bass and a treble boost that makes everything sound better. Like, just gives you extra warmth and punch. And I'm just like, oh God, I just want this on all the time. What if we could do that in a pedal that's just like that sound, that kind of EQ, like a smiley face that it just gives you, that just makes everything sound sweeter. My Ashdown amp Ashdown have a shape button, which kind of adds that to it. And I'd never, ever have that off. I just think it sounds so much better with it on. So I'm like, what if you could put that into a pedal that's just one knob, you know, and have it be a ridiculously big knob, you know, that's just like mix. So it's just like, how much of this do you want?
Control.
Yeah. And it's always on. There's no on off. I know you could have it on off, I guess, if you want. That's probably a design flaw if you don't. But like, it would just be either that,
How much of it?
or a slider. You know, put a little slider on it, like that bass I was talking about. Like something like that would be super cool. That just isn't always on. That just makes everything sound better. You know?
Yeah, that sounds great. I like the fact that it's so simple as well. Like I was saying before, I like really simple, you know, less controls, just does what it needs to. And like, you know, some like dark glass pedals have a sound to them, and I suppose it's like it's just a sound, but you've got some control of that sound in terms of like the level and stuff. I was actually thinking, I've thought about making my own pedal at some point and had various ideas, and then I was thinking of like names and stuff, and I thought if you made one, and this might go with the one that you've just come up with, you could call it First Dibs. And it's the first pedal you go into on your chain, and I think it's a play on the name, and I think it might sell quite well. So maybe you need to ask Jordan about how you get your own pedal going and team up and get it going.
That's the thing, because I know sod all about making pedals. That's the problem. So I might reach out, and I was tempted to do that because there is a market for something like that. I feel like, or some kind of
definitely,
or some kind of. I don't know. I'm always having this thing where I want the ability to record my bass sound. So I've always thought it would be cool to have a pedal that does that. But there are pedals that kind of do it, like it's behind me here. The TC Electronic Wiretap does this.
Oh, yeah.
Discontinued now for some reason. But it's kind of like this secret pedal that not many people like super know about. And it's essentially a looper and a riff recorder, as they call it. So you can just go, record what I'm playing right now. And it's just in and out, and it records what you're doing, which is great.
That's cool.
And it means that if you want to like play live and just record the whole gig, you can do, and it will store it in here, and then you just USB it out to your computer, and you can like play back to it and listen to it. I would want a bit more of an advanced version of this to sit at the end, and maybe have an optional like IR loader that you could put on there, so you could you know, go after your preamp and take your pedalboard sound and then add like a cab sim to it, or something like that, you know, or something where you could really, it's built for recording, not just like idea recording, which is what this is meant for. Whereas it's more of like a content focused pedal, where it's like this is meant to be recording it in a way that essentially a combination of these two products. You know, like this kind of DI recorder in a pedal format that I can turn on and off with a foot switch. Great. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's...
And like, sorry to keep going on.
No, it's good.
This is great as well, you know? Like having it have a microphone of some sorts to get room sound as well. That'd be great. Maybe you could plug your phone into it as well, so it will replace the audio on the video you're recording, so you don't have to sync it up in post. Something like that, you know? Like that kind of thing. I'm coming at it from a content point of view as well, of course. But something like that, I think there's a little bit of a market for that could be quite cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And also, if it recorded the sort of microphone signal and your direct bass signal, and you could then extract both tracks, you could kind of mix your sort of live gig, but boost the bass, you know, and kind of hear the performance, you know, from a bass point of view. I know it wouldn't, you might not necessarily be in the best place on your pedal board on the floor, but you'd get the reflections and you'd capture something. So yeah, it's quite a good idea. I've not really thought of something like that. I mean, I've used like these sort of interface type things where you can record directly into your phone, like a little roll and go mixer or something.
Yeah,
and
I had that.
I find that it's just, I'm messing around with loads of cables though. Like what stresses me out is like, I want to film something, and it takes me half an hour to set everything up, and then I'm tripping over cables, and then I get ready to record, and I'm sweating and like can't be bothered now. I'm putting all
Yeah.
my stuff away. The
Yeah.
amount of times I've set everything up and then just packed it away and not done anything because it's a faff, to set it all up. But
Yeah, 100%. And that's like the thing I tried to achieve. What I've got my head in a like a carry case type thing that's kind of built into a bit of a rack almost, but only just for the head. And it's got one of these, a slightly different one that's I don't really like, built into the back of it, just like taped into it essentially. And then I'm splitting the DI signal from the back of the head. One's going into here and one goes to front of house. But I haven't quite got that working yet because I think it's the cables, but I always get hum and noise from these cheap ass splitter cables. I don't think it's quite right. And I
Yeah.
need a clean signal going to front of house. So haven't quite got that right yet. But yeah, something like that. Something like that.
that sounds really good. Okay, so I noticed the time we've done a fair chunk of time, so I do want to let you go in a minute. There was a little section on music, but we have talked a bit about your music influences and stuff like that. So I'm going to just skip to the last section, which was just about content creation. So there's 3 questions, and then we'll do sort of a roundup at the end. So the first one's just how has your approach to content creation changed over time?
Over time, it's changed into what is, easiest and what is achievable for what I'm doing. Like, for instance, I used to think, right, everything has to be filmed on a camera, everything has to be done this certain way, when actually the thing that can do the best job is in my hands right here. So there'll be stuff I put up on Instagram, and I'm like, some people would film this with a camera. Whereas I'm like, no, let's film it with a phone because it's just quicker, it's easier. I can turbo edit this on my phone rather than transferring files and doing it on here and sitting down and doing it. I can do this whilst making my tea, like in between breaks, just do a little like 20-second edit, like and come back to it. And it's just trying to see what is the most efficient way to do things, and that's where I've got to now is efficiency and how it's changed over time. My desk has been the most recent thing that's made my life a lot easier because I was going to activate it then, but it would be a bit too noisy maybe. I've got a standing desk. Standing desk is the perfect content creation tool. Want a different height for your shot? No problem. Want to have your everything attached to your desk, no problem. Different height of a light, no problem. It's great. So I've got my camera set up on here. I've got used these Rode mic stands here, and I've got a couple of these. My light is on one, this is on one, and I bought extra clamps so I can actually take the light off, move it over here. I can put the microphone over here, and so it's really adaptable. So I can really change it up where I need to for different things. That's great. Like, yeah, it's things like that that make my life a lot easier that I try and do. And that's only over time coming across problems. I mean, like, this is becoming a barrier to creating content. And that's the thing. Creating content takes time. And it's reducing the amount of time it takes you and reducing the effort, because my rule, or I find the rule with a lot of bits of content, is the more effort you put in, the worse it's going to do. Specifically talking about short form content there. Because a lot of the time you'll put like loads of time into this edit or like really go ham on this video and it just flops. And then you'll put up like a 3-second video about something and it does really well. And you're like, what?
Yeah, there's no like sort of science towards it, is there? You just like never know sometimes. I find with shorts as well. What I've started to do is kind of go, I'm not necessarily making content for content's sake. I'm sharing what I'm doing. I kind of just want to share what I'm doing and hope that people sort of enjoy some of it as well.
And that's one of the things from content creation I've noticed. And the thing I love the most about being present online with this stuff is talking to people and meeting people and contributing to this community, because then you just, I don't know about you, but I don't have anyone to talk to about this stuff in real life.
I'm the same.
Like it's all like I only know Chris because of the internet, and like we don't live anywhere near each other. So it's only through doing stuff like this and sharing stuff online and that you can really nerd out about this stuff. And that's part of the fun. You know, some people are like, oh, gear doesn't matter, but I'm like, yeah, but it's fun, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole
that's
point. It's meant to be fun. You know, that's people forget sometimes. They get so serious over things and like kind of, you know, sort of gatekeep things and that. And I'm like, you know, did you not realize that all this comes from like, you know, enjoying music and having fun? And, you know, that's what it's all about. It's just like sharing all the sort of good experience in what you're doing and all that.
yeah.
With the YouTube thing, this is quite an interesting one. So, how often do you check your YouTube analytics?
Well, if it depends, because I don't actually go do that deep of a dive on analytics for a reason, because I do a lot of analytics in work, quite a numbers driven person. Um, and, you know, interesting trends, things like that. Not trends like this TikTok dance. I mean, like trends like, how this video performs, you know, getting that formula, you know, I'm into that kind of stuff. But, um, I like not being too attached to it. So I tend to I probably check subscriber numbers once a day, I would say. Once or twice, you know, when I wake up, I always check things, you know, what's come through, what's updated, etc. Emails, obviously, and then probably once later after work, maybe something like that, I'll check them again. But I don't tend to do like full deep dives and like this retention rate and all of this. You know, you can go so deep with it, and I probably find some interesting information doing that. But I know kind of what's going to perform well and what isn't, in to a certain degree with some
Yeah.
content now, and so and that's just through doing, and learning from mistakes and things like that, because you know I still make mistakes all the time now, you know, like and it's just a journey and everything's changing all the time, so it's just applying what you've learned from those mistakes, keeping consistent with it. That's the main thing. And yeah, just if it's growing, that's good. Keep doing that. You know, if you notice a slump, okay, we need to do something different. And I think it's important to look at numbers like the follower count. You know, I try not to keep too tied to it from a mental point of view, where I'm like, that's the only thing that matters. I don't think that's the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
But because I'm a marketing person, that's my kind of main job, and so that's where that kind of skill set comes from, and that desire to think about the numbers and want to grow it. So it's important to, in some aspects, to think about that, because you need to have an idea about whether you're doing the right thing. You might be just farting out videos that are getting no views and being like, this is great.
Yeah.
And if it's great for you, great. But if you want to grow, you can't keep doing that. You know, it's just a downward spiral then, kind of thing. So you got to know what's going to work, kind of thing. So kind of like
Yeah. And do you have any advice for sort of fellow content creators? You know, if there's people out there who kind of think, oh, I'd like to do some content myself. And, you know, I know there's a lot of information you can get from doing a YouTube search and people recommending this, that, and the other. But from someone who's kind of lived and breathed it for a number of years, what would be your sort of advice? I know that I've learned a lot from doing it over years and things I could tell myself from when I started, from you know, from now. What would you sort of say to fellow content creators?
you've got to think about it from an audience's perspective and think about, why would someone want to come back? Why would someone want to come back to my videos? What makes me different to other people? What makes it stand out a little bit? Why would someone think, I'm going to subscribe? Not just because I enjoyed that one video, but I've consumed a couple of bits now, and I think, oh, yeah, okay, they've got me. They're clearly doing a thing. I like what they're doing. And that's where consistency comes into it as well. You know, doing a consistent format, or repeating a series of videos that people like, you know, and keeping that going. It's not just a one-hit wonder then. It's not a one-off that someone's seen. It's, oh, that's the guy that does that, or I like that they do, you know. Or I'm not saying you have to be like totally unique to other people. Like, I'm just doing a rehashed version of what other people are doing, you know, but the editing style is slightly different, or like the production is slightly different, the entertainment is slightly different, and it's just giving people a reason to come back. You just have to think, why would someone go, yeah, they deserve a subscribe, and I would like more of this, please? Because you could just be doing the same thing, playing and talking to camera, and people are going, yeah, this is like, okay, the highlight thing here is the playing. They play really good stuff. I really like they're on my level, that kind of thing. The relatability is there. That might be what some people really like. A really good example of this is Philip Conrad. What an incredible vibe his whole channel is. He's really nailed
Amazing.
down an aesthetic and a feel you get when you're watching his videos, and a personality to match. Whereas, like, if I went through a bit of a stage where I was like, oh, I want to slice that pie. I like what he's doing there. So I changed the fonts I was using a little bit to be a bit more like Art Deco, and the colours I was using to be slightly more yellowy. And I still like warm lights, things like that. And my videos have changed slightly over the years. But it's only through doing that then you find your voice in what your presentation style, because if I had all of that stuff, like if my videos looked like Philip Conrad, so I had the same demeanor, and then my editing style was kind of like how I do it, it don't work. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
totally different. So, and again, it comes back to that comparison thing. It's not the same, so don't try and be the same. And like I said, I'm probably just a rehash version of other things, but it's slightly different, I guess, and people enjoy it and come back to it. So yeah, if you can keep that consistency up, not only with your style and the type of videos you're doing, but also with how often you're releasing content as well, it gives people a bit of a schedule to come back to. And I don't mean that every Friday or 9 a.m. is when a video goes out. Like, no, I mean like it's every other week. It's once a week, that kind of thing. Like, you don't have to be super regimented with it, but as long as it's fairly regular and it appeases the YouTube gods at the same time, then yeah, it can all kind of work nicely together. So, and there's no rules at the end of the day. Like, there's things you
Yeah.
can do to help yourself, but some people blow up on one video and then just ride off that, and like, there's no book you can write to success, I'm sure, but yeah, those would be my bits of advice.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I think it's like important to just kind of just stay true to sort of being who you are and just be yourself, sort of thing. It's hard to do that when you're starting out, and I think you feel like you have to compete or you have to be a certain way or things have to look a certain way. But a lot of the advice that comes from the people who are, you know, experienced in it, a lot of them just say just be authentic and kind of just share what you're doing. And if you like doing something, there'll be other people who like what you're doing. And I think, like, I absolutely love Philip's channel, and I look at it sometimes and I just think he's such a cool creative person, and I just love his content. And he's just like gone from just turned up and then just become this monster content creator. But I'm like, well, he didn't really. He's probably always been very good and creative at that sort of stuff, and he's got that talent, And that's not me. If I started trying to do that, it's just not my style. I can't do a style that I'm not. I have to. I'm more sort of like technical, talking about the detail of this recording thing or whatever, or making a preset and dialing in this. You've got to kind of stick in your lane and don't kind of look at what you do or know as being less. Just run with it, because lean into what you enjoy and what you're good at, because
Yeah.
I don't think I could replicate anyone's channel, and I don't think you should do, because you'll find you're not enjoying it. You've got to enjoy it. You've got to be
Yeah.
authentic and true to yourself.
You've got to play to your strengths, like you said. Like, I can, I enjoy editing videos, and like a lot of my videos are in the edit. It's a lot of, it's heavy. Each one is a heavy edit. I shot myself in the foot with that, because each one takes a while to edit. It's not just record, yep, done, off it goes. It's a lot that goes into it, to a fault, but, and it's because I know my limits of what I can edit. And so I'm like, oh, if I can make this look bad on purpose, like in moments, or like really kind of rough around the edges, but that's kind of part of it, then that works and it's sustainable, because if you're trying to be someone else and not yourself, it's not sustainable and you're not going to enjoy it at the end of the day.
Yeah, you'll just stop doing it, won't you? You won't carry on with it. You need to kind of spend the time doing it over a period, you know. So I'll just do a couple of closing questions there. I'm sorry to keep you so long. I've just enjoyed sort of getting into the detail with all this bass stuff. So what's coming next for you? Sort of, you got any upcoming projects, or have you just kind of cracking on with the channel and that? Anything you can share?
Just cracking on, man. Yeah, there's big things coming soon. For me, I'm looking forward to getting further into the kind of bass community by meeting lots of the kind of big players with through podcast guesting, but also through live events and things like that. Like obviously the like Birmingham Guitar Show is an amazing example of that, of like doing our first live show and like meeting loads of people in the flesh at places like that. Bass Day is happening in June, 1st of June. In London, and I'm going to be on stage essentially emceeing the stage there, and introducing all the guests and kind of doing a live stream and interviewing people in between and things like that. So things like that I'm really looking forward to doing. I love interviewing people. I love being on the receiving end whilst being on camera with them, like, and kind of trying to get the best stuff out of someone else. It's something I really enjoy. So really looking forward to that this year. Might be doing some international travel with that as well. So it's kind of like that side of it. I'm really looking forward to kind of breaking new ground this year. So yeah, should be fun, and lots of tasty reviews coming up as well. So yeah,
that sounds great. And so, where can people find you online?
Course. So it's just at Jonny Dibble everywhere. So Instagram and YouTube, of course, are my main playing grounds. So just type in my name and you shall find me. I'm on TikTok as well, but it's at Jonny Dibble Bass, because obviously someone else took Jonny Dibble on there. I will find you. And so yeah, it's just search my name and I'm sure it'll come up.
That's great. I really want to thank you for taking the time to speak with me today, sharing your thoughts. It's rewarding for me to get the person who inspired me to start my YouTube channel on my first bass podcast, and who knows how long this will go on for, but I'm happy to have shared this first episode with you. And obviously for the people listening or watching out there, if you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe and rate this podcast. Hoping to do more. Thanks for watching. Thanks again, Jonny, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much. See you soon.